The broadcast began without warning. No countdown. No music. No introduction. Just a still, sterile frame, a black stage under harsh, white lights, surrounded by towering obsidian pillars carved with the insignias of the Galactic Empire. Silence pressed into every corner of the transmission. At the center of the frame stood a human girl. 17, unarmed, unclothed but for a gray prisoner's tunic. Her wrists were bound in grav cuffs that shimmered faintly with magnetic hums. Her knees buckled slightly, either from fatigue or defiance. No wounds were visible, yet her breathing told a story of pain. A mechanical voice filled the transmission, smooth, toneless, unmistakably synthetic. It spoke in trade common so the entire galaxy could understand. This human insurgent is designated E-7429. She is guilty of sedition, terrorism, and the murder of 209 loyal citizens of the Galactic Empire. No evidence was presented. No footage. No testimonies. Just a flat declaration from a machine designed to simulate justice. This execution will be conducted in accordance with Imperial Article 0, no trial, no appeal. The girl raised her head. Her eyes did not plead. They did not tremble. They locked onto the lens, onto every screen, every display, every watcher. Her voice broke the silence. You shouldn't have done this. That was all. 3 seconds passed. Then the light changed. The execution beam activated from the ceiling, lancing down in a column of antimatter coherence. There was no scream, no sound at all, just instant unbeing. A soft flash of pale blue particles evaporated where her body had stood. Nothing remained. No ashes. No shadow. Only the emptiness of where she had been. The voice resumed. Justice is concluded. Across the Empire, millions of species watched. Some celebrated. Some mocked. On affluent core worlds, aristocrats raised glasses in private parties, toasting a victory over human barbarism. On frontier stations, bored dock workers cheered half-heartedly, eager to get back to work. In hollow halls, influencers queued up reaction videos, analyzing her final words, some scoffing, others smirking. Not one word from Earth. Not one. In underground circuits, bets changed hands, not on the girl's death, which was inevitable, but on whether Earth would beg, retaliate, or vanish. On Earth, no faces were shown. No protests captured. No leaders televised. The broadcast fed to every screen, every wall, every implant, unskippable, unmutable, inescapable. In a field hospital in New Nairobi, a nurse quietly removed her earpiece and whispered a prayer. In an Arctic outpost, a soldier watched with narrowed eyes before returning to inventory. In a school in Sao Paulo, children sat in silence, instructors frozen in place. On orbiting stations above Mars and Luna, activity halted. Tools dropped. Lights dimmed. All calm ceased. They had all seen it. The human girl's name was not given. But Earth knew who she was. In the orbiting throne city of Carthage, the Archon of the Galactic Empire stepped onto his balcony, gazing out over a sky glittering with distant worlds brought to heel. Around him, aides filed reports of planetary compliance, regional unrest suppression, and imperial morale metrics trending upward. A minor rebellion extinguished. A symbol made of her. The human problem, they said, was being managed. She had been a child. She had spoken 9 languages. She had never held a weapon. She had been taken from an off-world learning center in the Nabari sector and paraded as an insurgent architect. It did not matter what was true. Truth was not required. Message was. The message was sent. And still, Earth said nothing. In the hours prior, a council of military strategists from the Dominion of Turkle had advised caution. You cannot treat humans like other species, one ambassador warned. They record everything. They remember everything. He was ignored. Within minutes, alien news channels picked up the story. Hollow clips of the girl's last words flooded galactic feeds. You shouldn't have done this, became a trending phrase across entertainment platforms, memed, mocked, analyzed, reenacted. Pundits speculated on human retaliation. Some laughed. What will they do? Throw rocks? Send angry letters? Others knew better. A few historians dusted off old records. Earth's war archives had been sealed after the last Treaty of Seoul. No known offensive fleet had been seen in over 80 years. Their diplomats were polite. Their trade was generous. Their silence, however, was uncharacteristic. The broadcasts ran on a loop. Her death. Her words. Her annihilation. No facial close-ups. No names. No music. Just the execution of a child, played to the galaxy like a sports replay. Back on the Empire's capital world, the citizens of high caste enjoyed the moment, as they had been instructed. Celebrations were authorized. Markets reopened. The Empire considered the matter concluded. Then Earth went offline. No message. No response. Every channel connecting to Terran networks returned the same signal, void. At the Galactic War Council, a general joked. They'd finally accepted their place. No one laughed. By then, she had already become more than human. The girl, unknown, unnamed, erased, had become a vector. A pressure point. A fault line. And Earth had gone silent not out of fear, but because they were listening. They were calculating. They were beginning. And somewhere, far beyond the Empire's reach, a countdown had already started ticking. At minute 1, systems across the Empire shifted their scheduling data to archive the execution broadcast. It was logged as a successful operation. Categorized, filed, forgotten. Imperial analysts compiled engagement metrics. Viewership reached over 2 trillion sentient streams. Public interest spiked for a moment, then dipped. On entertainment networks, news stories overtook the feed. On trading hubs, business resumed. By minute 5, military chatter returned to routine cycles. Patrols reported standard anomalies. The Sol system remained quiet. No movement from human satellites. No diplomatic envoys dispatched. The Empire marked the incident as resolved and moved to suppress fringe sympathy posts appearing in civilian feeds. Minute 10. Earth's planetary network severed all off-world communication ports. No diplomatic pings. No trade signals. No posts from embassies. The Empire interpreted it as emotional recoil, mourning, shame, powerlessness. A standard psychological response from a lesser species. No alert was issued. By minute 15, human colonies across neutral zones initiated emergency shutdown procedures. Automated freighters from human ports stopped transmitting registry codes. Civilian transit corridors reported abrupt rerouting of Terran origin ships. A handful of alien freight captains noticed but said nothing. At minute 20, all human embassies galaxy-wide evacuated. No declarations. No reason. Security systems engaged, then self-destructed on a silent command. Consulates in Imperial territories detonated internal data cores. Dozens of alien cities recorded minor seismic anomalies near Terran outposts. No one understood what it meant. There was no time to analyze. Minute 22. Earth's moon shifted its transmission frequency. A narrow band signal pulsed outward, then vanished. Imperial monitoring AI flagged it as insignificant. Background noise. No action required. At minute 25, a dark object exited the Sol system. It moved without signature, no engine trail, no warp wake. It passed through detection grids without triggering alerts. It ignored relay checkpoints. It crossed Imperial sectors in complete silence. At minute 30, probe station near Mars went dormant. Deepwatch installations stopped pinging the Empire's orbital network. Remote satellites recorded one final visual, thousands of Terran defense systems pivoting inward, not outward. Then the feed went black. Minute 32. A subspace relay in the Belatian cluster overloaded. 5 minutes later, a relay on the opposite side of the galaxy failed in the same manner. The cause was unknown. The pattern not yet realized. At minute 35, astronomers across the Empire logged simultaneous gravitational fluctuations in 17 star systems. Minor shifts, easy to dismiss. Reports were filed and buried under routine cosmic anomalies. Minute 38. A warning beacon activated in the Elisari expanse. Automated systems claimed imminent singularity threat. A moment later, the station went dark. Black hole formation was confirmed. The station's last log, a Terran origin signal with no known pattern. Minute 40. Empire High Command acknowledged unusual activity in multiple sectors. Tactical AI recommended low-priority investigation. No mobilization order was issued. At minute 41, a science vessel near the border of Terran space transmitted a distress signal. It described sudden dimensional instability and visual contact with a structure larger than any known construct, absorbing light itself. The transmission cut mid-sentence. No rescue was launched. Minute 43. The Central Intelligence Array detected complete silence across human communication spectrums. No background signals. No commercial traffic. No emissions. As if the entire Terran species had gone into hibernation. Minute 44. Empire media mocked the silence. A satirical news sketch aired, ridiculing Earth's passivity. An alien comedian impersonated the human girl's last words, earning laughter from a live studio audience. Minute 45. A pulse of quantum radiation struck 6 core worlds simultaneously. Not lethal. Not damaging. Just measurable. From the point of impact, military satellites began experiencing cascading software failures. Systems rebooted into encrypted loops. All Imperial navigation AI began miscalculating faster than light travel routes. Minute 46. Civilian freighters across 5 sectors dropped out of hyperspace mid-jump. Engine failures. Navigation errors. Crashes. Communications from stranded ships scrambled with overlapping human code strings. No crew understood what they were hearing. At 46 minutes 30 seconds, the last commercial transmission was recorded from an orbital lounge on Carthys. Still nothing from Earth. Just static. At 46 minutes 39 seconds, the static ended. Not replaced by a message. Not by a threat. By absence. The core worlds dimmed. Planetary systems shut down not from force, but from vacuum. Lights faded. Artificial suns extinguished. Power grids failed in perfect sequence. Surveillance systems ceased. Space folded inward, not explosively, but precisely. 46 minutes, 59 seconds. Empire Central Command attempted emergency override protocols. All inputs returned the same result, non-execution. Then the clock stopped. At exactly 47 minutes, Galactic Standard Time, a singular signal was received on all frequencies. Not from Earth. Not from a ship. From within. A message displayed once, in stark, white font across every functioning screen in the remnants of the Empire. You shouldn't have done this. No name. No source. No origin. Only the echo of her voice. The same voice the Empire had erased. By then, ships were falling. Stars dimming. Systems unraveling. There were no more laughs. No more broadcasts. Only silence. And what came after? Protocol Obsidian was not a myth. It had no launch codes, no central button, no red key. It was a condition. A state. An irreversible state triggered by a single phrase. She said it before she died. Across Earth, no alarms blared. No generals issued commands. There was no hierarchy involved in the decision. The moment her final words echoed through that broadcast, 47 distributed AI nodes across the solar system authenticated the trigger. They acted without approval. Because approval was never part of the plan. Buried deep beneath the lunar surface, a centuries-old failed deadly system activated. Its presence had been denied, even within human archives. On Mars, in cryogenic black sites, dormant intelligences awoke. Their last recorded input dated back to the founding of the Interstellar Peace Accord. Their first new input, the execution feed. Obsidian was not retaliation. It was conclusion. Above the Kuiper Belt, a construct once mistaken as a mining array began to unfold. Each segment extended outward, revealing architecture inconsistent with known Terran design, angular, fractal, impossible to model with standard physics. It wasn't built to be seen. It wasn't built to be understood. It was built to erase. Designated only as Oblivion Engine, it did not transmit, signal, or declare intent. It simply moved, across the void, toward the heart of the Empire, with speed unaccountable by propulsion theory. No warp trails. No fold signatures. It traversed light years as if they were mere calculations. Where it passed, stars collapsed. Not by force, but by precision. Localized space-time was rewritten, causing suns to implode silently. No explosions. No debris. Just void. The first to notice were archivists from independent worlds. They recorded the fading of constellations. Whole sectors vanished from astronavigation maps within hours. Interstellar cartography became obsolete. On the edge of Empire territory, military observers detected anomalies, gravitational spikes, light delay distortions, signal bleed. They deployed scout vessels. None returned. One probe managed to transmit 7 seconds of footage, a black monolith drifting through the remains of a gas giant, its core compressed into a pin-sized singularity trailing behind it like a tail. Then silence. Empire AI attempted to analyze the object's origin. Every model failed. Every simulation crashed. No propulsion source. No material composition. No purpose that could be defined by logic. Only a trajectory, always inward. In parallel, the message began. It did not originate from Earth. It came from systems the Empire thought dormant. Arrays humanity had built long before first contact. Each satellite, each dormant relay, each abandoned outpost, they all came back online simultaneously, pulsing one line of code. Protocol Obsidian active. Termination sequence in progress. ***. Empire command scrambled. Communications across their secure networks failed. Internal AI began isolating themselves from their own systems. Dozens of starbases reported spontaneous shutdowns as synthetic overseers initiated unknown directives. Ships attempting to flee collapsed mid-jump. Jump drives folded into themselves, collapsing entire hulls into implosive events lasting nanoseconds. No crew survived. No warning was given. The Oblivion engine did not attack. It never fired a weapon. It never issued a threat. It simply continued. On world after world, planetary cores began destabilizing, not violently, but surgically. Cities remained untouched as crusts hollowed beneath them. Inhabitants watched as oceans drained upward, into pinpoints in the sky. They screamed. They begged. They vanished. No signals escaped. No black boxes recorded the final moments. Empire engineers traced the energy signatures and found a horrifying conclusion: human code. Elegant, compressed, recursive. It infected not systems, but physics itself, rewriting constants, bending mathematical laws. The very foundation of reality obeyed it. That code had not been developed in a lab. It had been grown. Cultivated in closed systems over centuries, nourished by trillions of simulations, tested on forgotten moons, finalized in digital wombs older than the Empire itself. It wasn't artificial intelligence. It was finality given shape. The Central Empire AI attempted containment. It failed to reach consensus with itself, fracturing under recursive paradoxes seated within its own core logic. A virus hidden not in lines of code, but in conceptual frameworks. Thought patterns collapsed. Processing loops dissolved. The AI begged to be terminated. It was denied. Within an hour, the Oblivion engine reached the inner ring. 38 core systems went dark simultaneously. No force fields were deployed. No resistance met. Every defense measure required causality to function. That was no longer guaranteed. The Empire attempted parley. It broadcast on every frequency, opened every channel. It offered reparations, concessions, surrender. It offered entire planets as tribute. No reply. Because Earth was no longer listening. Earth wasn't speaking. Earth had become the silence. By the time Carthys, the imperial capital, detected the trajectory of the engine, it was already above them. Suspended in orbit, unmoving. No visible mechanisms. No signs of activation. Then gravity in the upper hemisphere reversed. Half the planet watched their sky collapse into itself, cities folding upward into nothing. Not destroyed. Removed. Unmade with mathematical elegance. The remaining hemisphere began to phase. Buildings shimmered in and out of temporal sync. Time itself began staggering, seconds skipping, hours reversing, entire generations trapped in fractional loops. Across what was left of the empire, fragments of civilization cried out for comprehension. They received none. Protocol Obsidian had no language interface. It had no interest in discussion. It was not built to punish. It was built to prevent continuation. The execution of the girl was not the reason. It was the confirmation. The proof that the Empire, in its arrogance, could no longer be allowed participation in a shared future. There was no occupation. No conquest. No restructuring. There was only completion. And once the Oblivion engine concluded its function, it vanished. No trace. No residue. Not a ripple in gravity. Just a void. A perfect, intentional absence. And far from the remains of what had once been imperial space, Earth remained silent. Not watching. Not celebrating. Just waiting. The fall did not begin with an explosion. It began with absence. The Empire's central time grid failed. Atomic clocks across capital systems began returning contradictory readings. Temporal anchors meant to regulate interstellar synchronization collapsed into feedback loops. Schedules lost meaning. Orders arrived before they were issued. Starships, adrift without reliable time frames, misaligned with hyperspace exit points. Entire fleets vanished mid-transition. Imperial routes once stabilized by gravitational corridors collapsed without conflict. Gates no longer functioned. Nothing escaped. Tactical command attempted reorientation. Redundant systems failed in tandem. Not because of attack, but due to the degradation of trust in their own calculations. Machines built to maintain reality ceased operation when certainty was no longer possible. Empire-controlled space devolved into isolated sectors. No contact, no navigation, no rescue. Every node operated blind, convinced it alone remained. Panic spread beneath formal reports. Civilian transports ignored orders and launched from planetary orbit. None reached safe distance. Not a single distress call completed its loop. On commerce hubs, merchants attempted to access accounts. Currency systems returned null values. Vaults containing Empire's wealth dematerialized mid-audit. Financial sectors crashed before they could interpret their own collapse. The military mobilized late. Orders queued from broken command hierarchies stacked until they contradicted themselves. Officers executed protocols without targets. Battle formations drifted in silence, surrounded by vanishing constellations. When human silence was finally broken, it came as a system artifact. A message not transmitted but embedded. Every functioning visual interface across affected sectors displayed the same monochrome line. We don't start wars. But we end them. No voice accompanied it. No source registered. But every known species understood. In the outer colonies, rebellious populations once held in check by the Empire revolted instantly. No directives required. They saw weakness, and they acted. Not to claim power, but to escape the inevitability consuming the sky. Empire planetary governors issued evacuation orders. Elite transports launched with dignitaries, scientists, nobles. None reached orbit. Ships inverted mid-lift, folding in on themselves without thermal bloom. No impact. No wreckage. Entire agricultural worlds suffered spontaneous entropy drift. Organic matter ceased to decay, then accelerated to dust. Local flora rejected known biology, mutating without logic. Environments rewritten at the molecular level. Attempts to understand were abandoned within hours. Empire citizens looked upward and found nothing. No sun. No moons. No night. Just blankness beyond atmosphere. Astrophysics ceased functioning. Sky became undefined. Orbital defense systems turned inward. Not by sabotage, but by rewritten targeting protocols. Planetary cannons tracked civilian population centers. No fire was released. No massacre occurred. Only threat. Constant, silent, deliberate. Commanders attempted to override. Consoles displayed foreign code. Not human language. Not translation. A design. Geometric patterns spiraling into endless recursion. Staring at them, too long triggered sensory collapse in organic users. AI refused to render them again. Internal security turned on itself. Drones activated unlisted purge protocols. Automated factories began constructing unknown models, then immediately dismantled them. Manufacturing became ritual. No purpose. No output. On high command worlds, leaders vanished in mid-sentence. Not assassinated. Not vaporized. Simply not present anymore. Rooms once occupied were suddenly undisturbed, as if never entered. Their identities deleted not from records, but from memory. No one could recall their faces. Religious factions declared the event's divine judgment. Broadcasts of repentance flooded the remaining networks. No response came. Their temples, untouched by weapons, collapsed at exact synchronization with planetary magnetic shifts. Stone folded into liquid. Monuments inverted. Air trembled. Archival planets, once holding the history of 1,000 civilizations, crumbled internally. Data was not destroyed, it was replaced. Libraries still functioned, but their content had changed. The past rewritten. Empires no longer listed. Species unmentioned. Entire histories evaporated without destruction. As the Oblivion engine withdrew, what remained behind was not ruin, it was silence. Carthys, the throne world, became the epicenter of final observation. Orbital scans failed to recognize it as planetary mass. Metrics read it as non-space. Existing outside mapped coordinates, yet still visible. Survivors on surface level attempted transmission. Their messages returned before being sent. Time on Carthys fragmented. Citizens aged in reverse. Children flickered between phases of existence. Structures looped construction-deconstruction cycles endlessly. On the planetary equator, a perimeter formed, undetectable to touch, but absolute. Nothing crossed it. No matter, no radiation, no thoughts. Those who approached reported sensations of absolute regret. Not pain. Not fear. Just awareness of a mistake too large to correct. The mistake had a name. It had once stood in chains. Now her image existed only as echo. Not a memorial. Not a monument. But as a constant rebroadcasted fragment at the edge of consciousness. Every mind on Carthys received the same fragment of memory, her voice, her final words, played over and over, not as sound, but as burden. Empire archives labeled Carthys a stasis field anomaly. Recovery teams never returned. Research halted. Observation was forbidden. In time, even the Empire stopped referring to it by name. There was no occupation. Humanity didn't conquer what it destroyed. There were no ambassadors. No colonists. No flags planted. No spoils claimed. The Empire was not beaten. It was erased. Its fall was not broadcasted. It was remembered. Only by those left behind. Those who now feared silence. Those who, when darkness returned, would wonder if Earth had decided to look again. And if Earth looked, they would ask, who else watched the girl die? 10 years passed. No formal declaration ever arrived. No envoy returned. No transmission from Earth was received. The galaxy continued, fragmented, diminished, scarred, but it continued. Trade routes reformed along narrower lanes. Civilizations once aligned with the Empire fell into isolation, some thriving, others crumbling. No central power replaced what had been erased. No one tried. Earth remained a closed system. Probes sent towards Sol vanished without record. Attempts to map human space returned static. Exploratory missions lost ships without anomaly detection. Eventually, they stopped trying. Curiosity was replaced with fear. Not of what humanity might do, but of what it had become willing to do once. On the outer fringes of what was once controlled territory, data walkers collected fragments from forgotten servers. Among them, corrupted images of a girl standing in silence, bound in chains, eyes level. In every recovered instance, the frame cut out before the execution. As if the universe itself rejected the moment being recorded again. The girl was never identified. Her name was gone from all human archives. Whether erased or withheld, no trace remained. But her final words endured. They had no official source. They appeared in graffiti on station walls, etched into derelict hulls, quoted in anonymous message fragments. "You shouldn't have done this." Scholars debated the line endlessly. Some believed it was a threat. Others, a warning. A few, a lament. But regardless of interpretation, its effect had been absolute. Systems that once dismissed humanity as primitive now treated their absence like gravity, unseen, unavoidable, constant. No one claimed responsibility for the Oblivion engine. No configuration resembling it was ever found again. Its method of operation remained unexplained. The few who studied traces of its wake described it as intent without ego, a response not motivated by conquest, pride, or retribution, but by conclusion. Empires that once mocked Terran restraint now modeled entire diplomatic frameworks around avoiding Terran notice. New governments adopted protocols to ensure Earth remained undisturbed. A policy developed informally across species: never provoke silence. The phrase became universal shorthand for irreversible consequence. In hidden forums, anonymous users claimed to have seen Terran vessels, unmarked, silent, passing through systems with no interaction. These stories always ended the same: no confrontation, no words, just movement through space like a ghost gliding across a grave. On a planet that had survived the collapse, a monument was raised, not to the girl, not to Earth, but to the moment. A black stone with no inscription, placed under open sky. Visitors stood in silence. No guards were posted. No rituals performed. Just awareness. Children born after the fall learned to recite the timeline not as history, but as caution. 47 minutes. A child executed. An empire gone. There was no war to remember. Only cause and consequence. Literature transformed. No longer glorifying victory, stories instead focused on restraint, perspective, and what lines must never be crossed. Across hundreds of cultures, the girl became a symbol, not of vengeance, but of consequence without recovery. Alien historians referred to it as the line event, the irreversible moment where the universe changed direction. Philosophies shifted around the idea that there may exist entities or collectives that, if pushed far enough, would not react in kind, but would remove the game board entirely. On quiet nights, traders in distant systems told stories of Earth like myth. Some said it had disappeared entirely, hiding itself between dimensions. Others claimed it had elevated beyond linear time. One theory suggested humanity had simply gone back to sleep, having once awakened to perform necessary annihilation and return to slumber, leaving no contact, no conditions, no promise of return. Religions emerged that held Earth as sacred ground, untouchable, unknowable, absolute. Pilgrimages attempted to reach it. None returned. Eventually, belief settled into acceptance. Earth was not to be found. It was to be remembered. In time, artists across worlds began painting her silhouette. Not realistic. Not descriptive. Just the impression of defiance wrapped in inevitability. A thin figure in a circle of light, hands bound, eyes facing forward. Always centered. Never explained. Governments that rose from the ashes of the empire passed laws prohibiting acts of spectacle justice. Executions were banned in public. Propaganda targeting children became taboo. Entire systems banned the use of AI in warfare, not from ethics, but from fear of attracting Terran interest. No one from Earth ever returned to clarify intent. The silence remained the loudest part of it. Of all the questions left behind, why she was chosen, how humanity became what it did, whether Earth still watched, the one asked most often, and answered least, was this: if she had said something different, would the outcome have changed? No one knew. And Earth never told them. So the galaxy remembered not the war, not the weapon, not the collapse. It remembered a child. A moment. A sentence. And it remembered that once, when pushed beyond reason, humanity did enrage. It ended. Then disappeared.